Alright everybody, how we doing? This is Bobby Gaines here to talk about Jordi, Maroon 5's 7th studio album that I picked up last week, and a very short video that I put out. And, obviously since then I haven't really talked about my thoughts on the album. I've been kind of just listening to it, processing it. And, for those of you who might be expecting me to kind of dump all over it, I only say that because the general opinion on this album is overwhelmingly negative, and I'm even surprised by that. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I actually really liked this album. I'm going to say it. I really like this album. And yeah, that even surprised me a little bit. Listening to it the first time. Not that I was expecting to hate it, but kind of like Red Pill Blues, I had that same kind of weariness that, okay, this album's not going to be, what I want it to be, but at the same time, Maroon 5 is my favorite band. For those of you who don't know, yes, Maroon 5 has been my favorite band since 2004, when I first discovered Songs About Jane, and instantly fell in love with that album, and since then I've been there for every album that came out. I can remember, Won't Be Soon Before Long, Hands All Over, just getting super excited about those albums coming out, and just at both times just being like, holy crap. And then Overexposed came out, and that was kind of funny. I kind of compare this album to Overexposed, in that when that album came out back in 2012, I kind of had the same kind of weariness, is this album going to be as good? Because, how often, not just a band, but how often does anything turn out great that many times in a row? And Overexposed really surprised me. And my other thing with Overexposed was that it came out so quick after Hands All Over. Their first few albums took a few years each to make, and then Overexposed came out not even 2 years after the third album. So, and then again with V, another quick turnaround. But long story short, and I can't believe I'm even saying that there's a 7th Maroon 5 album. That kind of does make me happy as a fan that this band has stuck around to make 7 albums. So regardless of how good this ended up being, I think that in itself kind of speaks to their longevity and just their strengths as a band. Because I see a lot of the criticisms of this album, and I actually understand them. This isn't going to be Songs About Jane Part 2, or technically Part 3, because I feel like Hands All Over was kind of another Songs About Jane, but it's not going to be that Maroon 5. And that Maroon 5 is probably not coming back. I know they always kind of hint it. Adam and James, someday we're going to go back in the studio and make another Songs About Jane. I really don't think they're going to do it. I never thought they were going to do it, but I think any hopes of that is now completely gone. And I kind of got that listening from this album, and you would think that would make me sad, but I actually give this album credit for one thing that Red Pill Blues didn't have the guts to do, in my opinion. And if you remember my review of that album, and I'm going to kind of get to a funny part of that at the end of this review, if you remember my review of Red Pill Blues, it was that I didn't know what it was supposed to be, that album. It was kind of trying to appeal to hip-hop, but also kind of trying to appeal to Maroon 5 fans with a few songs, and also kind of trying some new things. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but Red Pill Blues felt very uninspired compared to their past efforts. Even just from an artwork point of view, the album art to me never did anything. The songs, some of them are very dull. Bet My Heart is still one of my least favorite Maroon 5 songs ever. That's a track on that album. Closure was the interesting one on that album, where I kind of was like, okay, they have this in them, why not give us more of that? And then, so for Jordi, which is this album, called Jordi because it's dedicated to their late manager, Jordan Feldstein, who died a few years ago. And so for this album, again, didn't know what to expect. I heard, the lead single technically was Megan Thee Stallion's collaboration with them, Beautiful Mistakes. And I heard that song, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a good song. It's got a good little beat, but I was getting kind of flashbacks to Don't Want to Know, or, Cold, or, all the little rap collaborations they had in between 2015 and to now, basically. And I was like, is this going to be another one of those? And then I saw, the track listing released about a few weeks before the album, and it was, featuring, Black Bear, featuring, this one, featuring that one, featuring Bantu, featuring, and interestingly enough, featuring Stevie Nicks. That kind of threw me off guard. But so I was like, okay, this is going to be another Red Pill Blues. It's going to be, a couple ballads for good measure. It's going to be, maybe a rock song that doesn't make any sense. It's going to be, whatever. I was wrong. And I knew I was wrong as soon as they released, or as soon as I discovered and again, this is kind of, I don't know, kind of semantics, but the second single, if you will, Lost. Lost is a song, track 2 on this album, that absolutely, for that moment, whatever reason, restored my faith in Maroon 5. I love the song. It has a very Police-like feel to it. while still kind of adopting that newer Maroon 5 sound with the percussion and the kind of electronic sounds. But it actually really works well with Adam's voice. It's by far the best song on the album, and it's probably my favorite Maroon 5 song probably in like 10 years. Like, it really got me excited about Maroon 5 again in a way that I hadn't been since Overexposed came out. And when I say excited, because I mentioned this on Red Pill Blues as well, and I'm going to kind of keep referring to these two albums, their 6th and 7th album, because I feel like that's an important thing to do. Their last album, like I said, there were maybe like 2 or 3 like really lousy songs, but there aren't any songs in Red Pill Blues I really go, oh man, I gotta listen to that again. That's kind of my main gripe with that album. Even like What Lovers Do was like, okay, it's okay, but I'm not like going on YouTube and looking it up and, oh, I gotta hear that again. Lost I was. I wanted to hear Lost again and again and again, and it's actually a pretty short song, so you can do that. But, still, does one good song an album make? And that's kind of where I was still weary. I'm like, okay, so they have all these rap collaborations, and, Beautiful Mistakes is just okay. Lost is an amazing song, so I'm like, where's this album going to go? So, flash forward to my first time actually hearing the album as a whole, because I always like to just listen to it as a whole. I don't just skip around. I don't just listen to the hits. I want to go track 1, in this case, track 1 to 11, plus the bonus tracks, whatever. So, after Lost, which was, like I mentioned, just really awesome, well done, you hear Echo, the 3rd track on the album, and this is one that I'm a little iffy on, to be honest. But, like I said, and this is going to get back to my main point of the album versus Red Pill Blues, this album knows what it wants to be, and that's kind of established right with Echo. Like, okay, it's got like a very, like, I don't want to say aggressive, but it's got a beat that's like kind of more in tune with today's pop, and then it's got, I'm not even getting to the Black Bear verse yet, but just Adam's, like, I don't know, in his inflection, the way he sings is just a little different. He's got like kind of these over the top like hooks in the song, and then the chorus hits, and to me it's not their strongest chorus. It really isn't. There's an echo, echo, echo in my heart, where my heart used to be, whatever. But it works. Like as soon as I heard it, and compare that to the 3rd track on Red Pill Blues, Wait, I just felt a lot more forced than this song, Echo. And I don't love Echo. I really don't. This is actually not a good example to point out why I like this album, but it is a good example of this album knowing what it wants to be, and then Black Bear comes and does his verse, and, and so on. And yeah, it's a pop song. It's more of a hip-hop type of song. It's got this kind of electronic beat on the chorus. It actually has some 80s feels to it with the verse and kind of the way it goes. I've actually had this one in my head for a little bit, so even the weaker song on the album, I think, works well enough. So yeah, like I said, the album knows what it wants to be. So, at this point, I'm 3 tracks in, I think, Lost is pretty awesome, and the other 2 are, for differing reasons, they're okay. And Lovesick, track 4, that's the one that kind of made up my mind on this album. Lovesick, to me, is just a fun song. It almost reminds me of, like, early Fits in the Tantrums, if anyone knows that band, or even just, like, Motown in general. But it has this really just kind of, I don't want to say high energy, because it's not a super fast song, but it has an energy to it. It has, like, a really just happy, it's actually not a happy song, but it has, like, this happy energy to it that I have not gotten from them in a long time, and it actually felt different, too. Like, so, they've kind of reinvented their sound on a few tracks. This is one of them, Lovesick. And I love that it has kind of Adam, hitting those high notes like he did in Sugar. It's got, like just a really forward-thinking beat. Yeah, the lyrics are not amazing. The lyrics are just kind of repetitive, I'm lovesick, and I know it. But, like, that's it. Like, I like it. I like the way it just kind of flows. It's catchy. You remember it. Again, another pretty short song, but it's got some really nice touches. I love the production in it. I actually feel like it, even though it is a little poppy and generic, like I feel like it does kind of go places in the short time it has. And then you get to Remedy, the song with Stevie Nicks, and I loved this song. And I thought I would at least like it just because I like Stevie Nicks. I didn't know how catchy this thing was going to be. And it's a shame it's only like 2 minutes and 28 seconds because it is so fun to sing along to. It's got a really catchy hook. It's got, in fact, I can't even tell where the hook ends in the chorus, and that's why I kind of like it. It just kind of, it's like almost like one long verse with Adam, and then Stevie Nicks comes in and joins him on the chorus, and it's really cool to hear their voices go together like that. Again, I know I'm in the minority there. A lot of people didn't like the team up. They thought it just sounded weird, but I liked it a lot. I really did, speaking of Remedy. And then Seasons, the 6th track. This was a weird one. I really didn't know what to expect here. generally when Maroon 5, if they're going to do a hip-hop type of set, they have they collaborate with somebody. They throw an actual established rapper on the track. But Seasons, and I'm not saying Seasons is really a rap song, but it's definitely not something I've heard Adam attempt before, which is like, I don't even know what you call it. I guess it's like R&B hip-hop. It reminds me a lot of Drake, actually, Seasons. He's just kind of like, he's like, I'm doing my thing, going my thing, loaded. Like, I know, I can't imitate it, but like Seasons to me, yeah, it's not my favorite song on the album, but again, I kind of commend them for trying something different and really committing to it, like not just half-assing it. Like, they really, the production values are great. I love the bass line. I even like the little, like, sunlight, starlight, and burning sun. Like, I kind of like, like, they put a lot of effort into this, I feel. And I know that's, again, going to be debated, but I can't fault Seasons. That doesn't mean I love it, but I can't be like, oh, what a piece of crap that was. Like, no, it was actually pretty decent for what it was. And then you have One Light, which is the next track featuring Bantu. And again, not my cup of tea personally. It's kind of like a reggae type of, like, again, R&B style. But again, it works. And it kind of goes in line with the other tracks. Even though, Lovesick and Remedy and all these songs have kind of a different sound to them. I can't explain why. They all have, like, kind of this similar theme to them. And I was, I first listened to this album, I was hooked, like, for better or worse. Like, I wanted to see what was next. I wanted to hear the new sounds. I wanted to hear what they were going for. And I never got that from Red Pill Blues. I listened to Red Pill Blues with, like, kind of this trepidation, like, okay, I kind of like that. Okay, this sounds good. But I was almost, like, cringing before every track. This one, I was like, okay, let's see what the next track is, just because the one before it was at least interesting. And One Light is interesting. Now, it's not going to win any awards. I think I like it better than Seasons, but I'm not going to say it's their best work. But then you get toward the latter half of the album now, because we're on to, I even have to look, track 8, which is Convince Me Otherwise, and I love this song. Convince Me Otherwise, featuring Her, H-E-R. Actually, in an interesting twist, they have Her sing first, so it almost sounds like it's somebody else's song in the beginning, which again, I was okay with, because Adam comes in, Adam actually compliments her very well in the verse, and then they both sing the chorus, and then Adam sings the second verse. So again, this is a collaboration that I thought worked really well. But not only that, but it's like a really moody song. It's a nice song. There's some really cool bass line in it. I actually think this album has like more guitar in it, like in general, than their past couple albums have had. Like actual legitimate guitar, maybe almost too much with like some of these weird clean guitar sounds or whatever, but whatever. Convince Me Otherwise, I thought worked extremely well. Really cool feel to it. One thing I will say, and this kind of applies to the whole album, my only complaint would be on some of those songs that have the more melodic hooks like this and Lovesick. Like, I wish they kind of held on a little longer, kind of milked some of those moments, because there's a really nice moment toward the end of Convince Me Otherwise, where there's like a piano kind of playing, and it just kind of, you kind of settle into it, you kind of groove to it, and then it's gone. Like, it's maybe 10 seconds or so, and I really wish they kind of kept that in instead of fading it out so quick. Because, like, after Adam sings what's essentially the last verse of the song, and then it kind of just fades, and it's a nice fade, but I wish you could hear more of that piano a little bit, because that piano really is very nice at the end. Next song, I'm going to kind of get to this and kind of mention Memories along with it, because they're similar. Track number 9 is Nobody's Love. I actually think that this kind of weakened the album in a way, only because, and I'm also not a huge fan of the song to begin with, but only because it doesn't feel like it fits in with the album. And it really doesn't, because it came out like the summer of last year. Now, maybe because of COVID, maybe the album was going to come out like last fall and they had to delay it. I don't know. But Nobody's Love to me feels like just one of those filler tracks like they put out between, the last couple albums, like Don't Want to Know, or, just like it sounds, like one of those filler tracks. And then they put it on this album, and it doesn't go with like stuff like Convince Me Otherwise or Lovesick, or like it's not that it's even a bad song. It just, again, like I said, it feels like it was like a one-off, and for some reason it's in the middle of this album. It just feels out of place. Now, Memories I love, and I'm skipping ahead here, but I love Memories. But Memories came out in like September of 2019, almost 2 years before this album was released. So, I mean, I love Memories a lot more than Nobody's Love, and it is a fitting way to end this album, especially since it is dedicated to Jordi, so I kind of let that one go. But, again, like, do I really want that, like, going forward? Do I want Maroon 5 to, like, release a couple singles a year and then kind of, at the end, add a few tracks and call it an album? Not really. But, this was kind of a weird cycle with the whole COVID thing and other things happening. So, I kind of let it go, but I'm hoping it's not a trend now. I know that they did include Don't Want to Know, and, they included moves like Jagger on Hands All Over, stuff like that. I know they've done that in the past, but that's different. Like, it's okay if it's like a bonus track, they throw it in there, but literally, two of the songs on this album came out 2 years before the album, or a year and a half before the album, or a year before the album, whatever. Beautiful Mistakes was obviously meant to be on this album. They released it in March. The album came out in June, so I get that. But, yeah, Nobody's Love, to me, it just didn't work. And then, what gets you back into the sound of this album is Can't Leave You Alone featuring Juice WRLD. And Juice WRLD's verse is extremely short, but I actually really like this song, too. It's kind of a simplistic melody. Almost reminds me of a Jason Derulo song, like his really early stuff. But it really works. Adam's voice really does show off its range on this album, particularly on this song. And it's got a very nice, the lyrics are actually something you can kind of relate to. I don't know how to really describe that, but probably some of the better lyrics on the album, Can't Leave You Alone. And then Juice does his verse, and it's a little underwhelming, to be honest. And I'm not going to judge, because, Juice WRLD, I don't really know him very well, but the album wraps up with Memories, and then you have a few bonus tracks. I actually really like Lifestyle with Jason Derulo, even though I consider that a Jason Derulo song. I don't really consider it a Maroon 5 song, but it's a nice song. And then there was a song Button featuring Anuel, kind of a Latin-sounding song that I wasn't a huge fan of, but in some strange way I'm kind of happy it was on the album, because I feel like Latin is one thing Maroon 5 hasn't tried yet, and it kind of works, because, they love their guitars, and this is a Latin guitar song, so... in summary, Jordi I thought was a really solid album. It really pleasantly surprised me. It's kind of funny, going back to my Red Pill Blues review. After all my criticisms of that album at the time, I still gave it an 8.5. I don't know why. I really don't. Because I'm going to give this album an 8.5, and I feel like it really deserves it. And I don't know, maybe I was just in a good mood that day with Red Pill Blues, but Red Pill Blues was not a good album. I'm sorry. It did have some good songs. I'd probably give it a 7 if I have to revise my score, but this I give an 8.5, because like I said, I could feel the effort a little bit more. Even the artwork is better. They even did these little flowery pictures of the band themselves and some of the artists that they feature on it. So I mean, this wasn't something they just slapped together, despite some of the singles being from the past. They didn't just slap this together. For better or worse. I see a lot of critiques of this album that's oh, it's just some generic pop they just put together. You know what? It is pop. It really is. And to that I say, so what? This is not 2002 anymore. I love Maroon 5. Do I wish they would make a Songs About Jane album again? Of course I do. That would be great. But they don't, first of all, they don't have to. Second of all, they're not going to. And I would rather have this, where maybe I don't agree with every single track on it, but at least I can tell that they wanted to do it, than Red Pill Blues, where it just feels like they were going in 8 different directions at once, but none of them were very good. This knows what it wants, and it generally hits. I'm not going to say every track's a winner, but it generally hits. And so, whether that dictates future albums or not, I have no way to know. It's honestly rare that a band even stays together this long and makes 7 albums. So, I'm thankful for the times we've had with Maroon 5. This album, I think some of the tracks might eventually not age well, Beautiful Mistakes, Echo, stuff like that. I think might sound a little oh, that's so 2020 or whatever. You might be saying that in 5 years or so. But some of them, like The Remedy and Lovesick, Convince Me Otherwise. Some of these songs I think are going to be good for a long time. In terms of just they don't feel like they're from one era or another. So, good for them for making what I think is probably their most diverse album. And I'm being honest when I say that. I think there's something for everybody here, as long as you just kind of, don't expect, Mozart, but it is a good album. Like I said, 8.5 I'll give it. 8.5 out of 10. I'm not going to be one of those, doomsayers, or Maroon 5's dead, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Maroon 5's changed, yes. But I don't think they're dead. And in fact, I think they still have a lot of good music in them. I love Adam Levine's voice, always have. I look forward to seeing them live again as soon as I can. Hopefully to hear some of these great songs, but that's my opinion on the album. I'd be interested in hearing yours. Thank you guys for watching my review. We will see you in the next one.